Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you're listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Matt Dunovant. Matt is a first-year student in our Executive MBA class of 2027, and he and I recently connected to talk more about his background, his decision to pursue an MBA, what led him to Darden, his recent startup that he's pursuing through the iLab this summer, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And as always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to the ExecMBA podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Matt Dunovant. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Brett. Good afternoon. Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great to speak with you. How's everything going? How are you doing?
Quite well. It's been a great season at home where our daughter just turned one. My wife is thriving in the art scene today at a big event, um, and things are going great as a student here at Darden. So going into year two is quite a pivot.
Yeah, you're almost to the halfway point in the program. How does that feel?
It's it's eye-opening to go from an applicant to a candidate into year one core complete nearly has been quite a turn. Uh, I've had a great group of classmates and a learning team 22 with a few great classmates that have become friends, and a faculty that has really shown up and created an opportunity to learn, collaborate, and move forward in some unique ways. And it's been great for my family.
Well, Matt, tell us a little bit more about you and your background.
Sure. Eh, I'm a I'm a father of three. I'm a husband of 10 years this next month. And I'm a leader in the United States Marine Corps for about 11 years now. It's been a great journey from humble beginnings. A mother, a mother who's raised me and prayed for me out of humble beginnings into a position now where I'm able to contribute to national strategy and today to economic prosperity in some unique ways that I didn't see um, coming from a small town in West Orange, New Jersey, to today where we are with launching a company and a graduate study, technical graduate degree down, and in some spaces covered across the globe above the Arctic Circle and in triple canopy jungle in the Pacific. These are a history or a foundational beginning that's been eye-opening, and here we are today where things are turning into real prospects, into real contributions for the nation. So it's great. It's been great.
When did you start thinking about an MBA? How did that become something that you wanted to do?
So um, at my kitchen table, my best friend of 20 years sat across from me last February in 2024 or 2025, and he asked me for help to build something to save lives in the operating room. He's a surgeon at Northwestern, and he knows that I've been building for technology for the military, for precision and autonomy for warfare. And he asked me for help. And out of that request, I looked over to my wife. She said, I got a nod of approval from her to take on something new. Um, and a few a few nights later, after months of 2:30 in the morning finishes, we realized that the commercial space, building in the commercial space, is very different than the military space, where funding and teamwork, large teams, really help get things going. This was just a few folks, a few co-founders, and a dining room table, and we realized there might be some, maybe an academic um, space might contribute to help us cover some of our gaps in this new commercial space for me. And so so I applied. As it was actually my wife who found Darden for me on a short drive home from a water park vacation. She looked up the top schools in the nation, and up popped Darden, and she asked me, "Well, it's are you ready to apply?" And I said, "Yeah." Brett, actually, it was a phone call to you that changed that for me just before the application due date, where we recognized that Darden was the next application due in the cycle of where we were in applications for different MBA programs. And it was email to you and a short reply to come in for a tour that wasn't available online, where you made it possible to come in and and check out Darden. Well, Brett, a few hours later, and after touring the campus and sitting in seats and this great dialogue on what Darden offers students, I was sure that this was where I needed to be. But I paused, Brett. I took a stop, and I paused on 395 South, I 395 South. I stopped, got off the next exit, and said, "I need to take a walk and really consider what's going on here." Well, Brett, that walk took me to um, a slow pace among the white marble stones at Arlington National Cemetery. And I got to walk grounds where um, men like the men that I lead in the military, in the Marine Corps, had made the ultimate sacrifice, and they'd served their nation well. And I was starting to consider, how have I served the nation well? Well, that walk led me to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and I paused and realized I needed a little bit more, some solitude, and so I walked behind the tomb. I ended up at the amphitheater, just behind the tomb, and etched into the marble is a quote from General Washington in his 1775 letter to the New York Provincial Congress: "When we assumed the soldier, we didn't lay aside the citizen," which is significant for me to understand in a moment where of transition, of growth, that to put down the bearing of arms for national security and pick up the the tools of economic prosperity and economic growth, and those were it was okay to begin this new journey. It was, because there's not a separation of the two. There is a soldiering that's required, but there's also a another space of citizenry and duty, and that's where I am today. And so, thank you to you, Brett, and to the admissions team for creating an opportunity for this today.
Well, that's a very powerful story, Matt. I will say a lot of people give a lot of thoughts to their decision to pursue an MBA. I have not had someone come on the podcast and talk about, such introspection at Arlington National Cemetery, no less, which is just right across the way here from our location in 1100 Wilson Boulevard. So,
Yeah, they, they, it was by coincidence, but not so much so. There's been a deliberate pause for reflection has been um, appropriate at each turn over the last few decades of my life that have created great purpose and great opportunity. And um, this will be 11 years in the military, that has taken me all around the globe and all around the country. And I've gotten the privilege to be, as an infantry officer, in some uncomfortable circumstances around the globe, in deserts and triple canopy jungle and in the frigid Arctic. And in those spaces, you get to learn a lot about the country and the people that are here, and those reflections, and um, how do I serve responsibly as a citizen and as a part of the soldiering? Well, that's where I am today, and Darden is a big part of that for me. And it took a few classes with some good professors and some good faculty to help me understand that. Dennis Yang, and Melissa Thomas Hunt. These are a few folks, and many others. There are a few folks that, in the academic experience, in the conversations, in the collaboration, the dialogue portions, there's been some incredible growth, and it takes meeting people where they are, and some good conversation starters with cold calls to to really to open up the conversation and open up the level, the opportunity for growth and development, and so onward and upward.
what is it about Darden that resonated with you, that appealed to you?
You know, it it was a different focus from the other schools, a focus on responsible leadership, and what that means, tangibly, not just you know, building good businesses, but building businesses that work for the community, that work for the nation, and work for the employees. Um, that was different, Brett. I mean, that was a different focus than the other top schools. This is a space um, where you've taken me to through one of the global residencies. You've taken me to Rwanda, to a place, a city called Kigali, where there's real innovation, real technology development, where there are propositions to change life for an entire region of a continent happening in a small country. And Darden took me there, and I recognized early on that there were gonna be many opportunities like that to experience business development globally, business development locally in small towns across the country, and what that afforded me as a young entrepreneur just getting started, and what that meant for all the spaces and all the people and all the interactions I have from day one, and from the caliber of the classmates that I have. I mean, Brett, there are some people in my class that are board members. Some are surgeons, and some are uh, just leaving the manufacturing work floor and senior leadership and everything in between. And there is a just like being in a foxhole, with young men in uniform, there is a business foxhole that is colorfully blended with people from all over the country here at Darden, all over the world even, some from foreign places far away from here that have come to have incredible dialogues around really challenging, rigorous cases and coursework, and it all matters. It's all um, been colorfully created and well placed, in a curriculum that is very well developed. And so I've been a benefactor, but today I get to be a contributor, and glad that you guys had me on the podcast to talk about some of these parts.
I'm curious about that process of adjusting to life in school. It sounds like things are going really well for you. You mentioned that you got work and you got family commitments and you have school, and all these things seem to be happily coexisting, but it may have taken a while to get there. What was that adjustment process like?
Well, Brett, to be quite candid, the adjustment process happened between 2 a.m. and 3:45, many mornings of late night work. But there is a um, there's an experience called burning the midnight oil that I've been accustomed to for over a decade now. One before even getting to the Naval Academy, where as an undergraduate, just all the preparation for that space. There's been a lot of this burning midnight oil, and that was absolutely a part of the transition into being an MBA student here at Darden. Um, but as far as the life challenges of being a father, being a husband, being an active duty Marine Corps officer, and in being a startup co-founder for a medical technology firm. These are competing spaces, and they demand a lot. But what I found here at Darden, um, was very unique in that it offered an opportunity to lean on friends, to lean on a faculty that was ready to support, arms well braced and fully ready to catch you when you fall. And I think that's part of it, because a lot of the spread has been a stumble into a sprint. and most of the time, the fear of failure can really withhold the human spirit. But when you know there's a group of well-meaning teammates, and well, then you're ready to sprint hard, and even if the ground is treacherous, with all sorts of manholes without covers, you have a group of folks that are ready to be there, and that changes the game. That changes the cognitive leap, and all of the the first fears of getting started.
For you, like, as you came to an MBA program, did you have much background in the subject matter? I'm just curious. I mean, many of our prospective students worry, like, oh, if I haven't taken this class or that class, it's all going to be new to me. How about you?
You know, um, I have a background in economics, having first studied under the advising of Curtis Swope and Pamela Schmidt at the Naval Academy, and a short tour of study at the London School of Economics for the summer, where I found my love for the study of national finance. Um, Believe it or not, though, none of those really helped me as much as the new appetite for learning in this environment, and the preparation that the my classmates um, and my learning team prepared me for. Because there's a social dynamic that accompanies the learning here. There is a focus and an emphasis on teaming with those around you that enables success here. And so, while I felt well prepared by the by the rigorous studies previous, the under a difficult and challenging undergraduate study and a previous graduate study in applied systems engineering. Believe it or not, those those skills in mathematics applied very loosely to the rigor of case method learning, and an analysis required. So I'd encourage those who don't come prepared with a background in economics or even quantitative studies to remember that when jumping in to something unknown, it you're not jumping in alone here. There is a focus and an emphasis on teaming and collaboration and leadership that 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 also enables good followership, and it's a beautiful thing when those things combine because it creates leaders that are ready to step in humbly, but also leaders that are ready to thrive together. And so that's what I'd offer that encouragement, um, to those who don't have the quantitative backing to jump in.
Yeah, I think it's always worth remembering that the learning here at Darden is a team sport. You're now into quarter 5 in the program. You have a favorite program? I mean, sorry, have a favorite class that you've taken thus far?
I do. Um, Dennis Yang's class, Global Economies and Markets 2, was my favorite class so far, and it's for several reasons. Um, one, it had nothing to do with how easy it was because it was certainly difficult. Quantitative models applied to international markets and the impact to net exports and imports. Um, well, that's not simple, and there's a lot that goes into it. And it's not just the math. It's not just the numbers. Um, I've got a few classes on my belt under my belt in differential equations and and Fourier analysis, and that didn't help. What it did help was appreciation for the application, an appreciation for being able to read the news and understand what the news meant in terms of business applications, uh, and that was revealing. That was special. And walking away from the classroom at Sands Family Grounds, one weekend, um, this it changed everything for me. It changed my understanding of what national security meant, from just the ability to bear arms and build a really strong F-35 program or have the best weaponry, and the razor sharp bayonets and really accurate high explosive employment. Well, that's very important, but it's only one part of national policy and national power. There's economic prosperity that's required to do all of these things and do them well. And that economic prosperity and those who can contribute to job creation and innovation, those are the spaces that contribute to some of this national power that has enabled human flourishing around the globe. It's been a humbling experience to get to know what that looks like from the mom and pop shop on Main Street to Wall Street and actually to right here in Washington, DC, where some of the technology and some of the largest GDP contributors are happening. Some of that space is right here in Northern Virginia. And so to be able to appreciate that walking out of Dennis Yang's class was very special. It actually enabled Brett I came home, and by Monday afternoon, after a few calls to some mentors and actually bringing on a new mentor onto my team, um, I spoke to my wife that evening, and shared that it's time for a change and that we'd be taking a pause in our military active duty military service to pursue what we're doing for this company full time. So next summer will be very different than this summer. Next summer will be a fully focused entrepreneurial venture that has taken shape over the last 10 months into something that's going to contribute to some of these things that Dennis Yang was able to describe so well in an academic dialogue. Um, and it's impacted my life in an incredible way. So that's been my favorite so far, Brett.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about where things stand with your venture and tell us a little bit more about the venture.
Oh, sure. Happy to. There's um, in the United States, the operating room is a dynamic, chaotic, and difficult place where, believe it or not, surgeons are entering the space with their very best efforts blind in some ways because the lighting that they're using, the last updates to that technology, the last innovations were 50 years ago in the 1970s. So Dr. Rahim Bell at Northwestern is my best friend and now colleague who I started this company with about 10 months ago. And he over 5 years of residency has done about 800 cases in the operating room and has had to manually adjust the light over 25,000 times. And if you can imagine having to do that while imagine having to pause your surgery, clamp off where you are while working on your innermost parts and manually adjust a light. Well, you're creating over the case of a 4-hour procedure, you're having to stop and refocus over 32 times. And that creates a serious challenge to the already heavily burdened healthcare system and the costs that they incur, but also creates challenge of safety risk to the patient. And so Dr. Bell he'd seen this problem and he asked me for help. And so we started building. We acquired patents through just a very challenging and rigorous IP strategy. We've begun building in or nearly complete, weeks away from nearly actually days away now from our alpha prototype being completed. And Brett, it was the most challenging thing to raise. We've raised nearly $100,000 in family and friends fundraising. We have since won um, the UVA has an entrepreneurship cup, and we won the concept phase for that in health and wellness back in last fall. And this spring, we were one of the winners of the launch phase of the competition, which came with money, which was great. That was helpful. But what the most benefiting thing was the ecosystem in Charlottesville. There is the conversations afterwards at the Tom Tom Festival, where I got to pitch the company. Um, that was in the collaboration among Darden faculty and some of Batten Institute's finest folks being at that in that space. There was a learning opportunity that was very unique. And since then, we have uh, been been uh, been selected to participate in the iLab incubator program this summer, or as part of the summer 2026 cohort. And we'll be presenting on Innovation Row for the CBIC Gala actually next week. And so there's been a flurry of investment, of interest, and of Darden alumni who have come alongside us to help us continue to build traction, which currently we're aligned very well with a letter of support from the one of the vice presidents of innovation and at Northwestern University. So that's where we'll pilot. But since then, we've also been tied in with UVA Health System and some of their quality and assurance leadership. And so it's been incredible. The Darden faculty have come alongside the company, or really alongside me as a student, and shepherded me to understand the space I'm in new ways. And so there's been a flurry of interest that's been complemented by genuine support. That's bridging a gap between Charlottesville, Northern Virginia, and even Chicago health systems. So it's been wonderful, Brad. Thanks for asking.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on your E-Cup wins. What was it like to participate in the Entrepreneurship Cup?
It was hard for a whole host of new reasons to me. Being a part of a space where you have to talk about yourself and what you're doing in non-technical terms, which previously I've built for autonomy and precision in the military, for space development, some space system development, and other solutions for the nation. There was a unique space now to speak about the commercial side of a company, and it was actually across a lot what the last 5 quarters of learning how to speak in business terms that prepared me well to speak to the terms of my own business and learn how to because it's very different. Um, Speaking to the systems, the large language models and the robotic systems that I'm building with in creating a very capable system for the operating room, well, I need to be able to speak to those terms in terms of return on investment for investors. What is when are we at 3 times and 10 times, the return on investment for some of these spaces? Well, yeah, it took a lot of learning through the financial management classes and the different policy classes that we're and some of the regulatory strategy that is uniquely placed in some of the learning spaces are uniquely placed in some of the clubs here at Darden. The healthcare club was a fantastic space where Dr. Paul Mathern ended up coaching and growing me into someone who could speak to the technology for the operating room, but also the business requirements that are necessary to grow great ideas into something tangible, which is what we're doing right now, and it's such a unique conversation because that was the application of, you have a great idea. Well, how do you turn that great idea into something that is a value added in tangible ways for operating rooms around the country? And that level of true, genuine interest and support turned into detail finding that has enabled us to be where we are today, months away um, from the next series of Series A investing and growth beyond where we are today. So, um, yeah, thank you for asking again, Brett. This is it's those kind of questions that over the last year have been encouraging, they've been complimentary, but they've been very genuine, and that's been in fact, there's been actually an emotional resilience roller coaster that I've been on, sometimes weekly, at times daily, when growing up this company, and questions like what you've asked, and the genuine interest across this community has enabled us to keep going and to not not hinder when fear or uncertainty enters the mix. So thanks.
Well, Matt, I'm curious, what are you looking forward to in the months ahead?
Oh man. Well, Brett, actually starting off in in the next few weeks here, the gala next week in Charlottesville, where some of the Charlottesville's best best businesses and strongest leaders are being identified and recognized um, by the Charlottesville Business Innovator Center, and they're that's what's next, and that's actually in 7 days. After that, I'll be at the iLab, incubator, in Charlottesville, for the residents portion of the course, and I'm looking forward to engaging with all the folks there, and the ecosystem that's in Charlottesville. Um, I'll be doing that across the summer from June, July, and August on campus, on grounds, and that's pretty exciting. Um, we are moving into the next quarters, which are gonna be challenging. I was actually just picked up for the GoLub, fellowship, and so, actually part of the beauty of building a for-profit company is it in the years ahead, it'll enable the nonprofit company that my family really wants to begin. And so I'll have a firsthand seat at a fellowship that puts me in the boardroom to understand how some of these nonprofit companies grow and work. And so that will be over the next 6 months. I'll be able to participate in both the electives that are that are gonna enable this new space and this new academic, um, learning, but it'll also transition into something tangible, that I'm able to grow out of this for-profit company, uh, into this for some of these next seasons. So that's really, really exciting, for us and for my family.
Yeah, the iLab's gonna be very cool. When does that really kinda kick off, for you? I know there's an application process you had to be picked for it, but now I imagine things are starting to feel pretty real as you start to work towards the summer.
They do. They feel very real. It'll start off actually on the 4th of June. It'll start off there virtually, and then by the following week, I'll be in person, working along with students from the McIntyre School, from Darden as well, and learning alongside them is short of it promises the levels of growth that the collaboration in my learning team and in the classroom has enabled as well. So I'm sure that's gonna be fun, but I'm also, very excited. Anya Eisenfratz is the program manager for that program, and Batten Institute is behind it, and so, it promises to be some real flourishing opportunities to grow both as a student and as an entrepreneur, or be a young entrepreneur here. Um, and so there's an incredible space to fully develop some of these ideas into thriving business opportunities. So that's exciting for us.
Well, Matt, one more question for you. Curious, you got a lot of prospective students who listen to this podcast. What's a piece of advice you would share with them as they think about their own MBA journeys?
Yeah. I'd share that at moments of uncertainty, when the future looks ambiguous and there are not a lot of folks sure that you'll do well, it only takes a couple. And sometimes before there are a couple that believe that you can do it. But even before they believe, you have to believe it. You have to be able to see yourself eh, in that space, not just in your dreams now, but now actually on paper in your application. And you have to be able to see, where do some of these courses, where does some of this faculty, where does some of this Charlottesville, Darden ecosystem, DC ecosystem, where does that fit into where you want to be? And I'm almost positive if you put some of those thoughts to paper and then map those to where the University of Virginia and Darden Business School has, and the executive MBA program has placed you, once you're a student here, you'll start to understand that there's a plethora of opportunity, and it begins at a in a as a in the classroom, that in a classroom space that catalyzes all of those first things that were just thoughts, all of those first fears that were not true. Or if they were true fears, then it shows you solution spaces. There are gaps that have real solutions. And that's what I'd encourage. I'd encourage you to put away the fears, and to take on the truths, about yourself as a student applicant or as a student today, because there's also a lot of folks that'll believe in you. A lot of my classmates have contributed financially to our company. They've invested through the 2027 EMBA program cohort has put together its own investment club called WBB, that has sponsored on some of these ideas that were once fears for many. Um, and so there's an incredible space here to grow. Um, so one step at a time. Good
That's
luck.
cool that y'all started your own investment club. This is just a side thing y'all are all doing?
Yeah. So it's called WBB, and it's a student run club built here by Taylor Thornley Keenly, and she established the entity. A lot of interested students jumped on board, and there have been several companies that have presented their ideas, and she's gotten it going. And it's not just financial support; it's also the support of classmates who have experience in venture capital and private equity and investment banking, and a whole host of other just unique ideas that they've turned from thoughts to paper to action, and they come alongside you with encouragement, and not just the pat on the back, you can do it, but here's how. Here's what I've done. Here's the experiences I've had, and here's where we're going. Here's where we are today, and it's all based on the realities of real, tangible, axe to the grinder. This is how we did it. This is the midnight oil we burned. This is where, so that some of these ideas, some of these dreams, become life-changing, human flourishing opportunities for communities that that could really turn and um, change the forefront of what's possible. Um, and that's been very unique. And so that's the encouragement here. There's a group of people, about 130 in my class, in my cohort, and they're all cheering for each other here in the EMBA program, the Executive MBA program, and it's been wonderful.
I think that's a great place to stop. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Great chatting with you. Congratulations on everything with your startup and being almost halfway through with your executive MBA program. That's awesome.
Oh, Brett, you were at the very beginning, and I was grateful for you then. I'm grateful for you now. But it's not just you, but the Darden Admissions team, the from Vice Dean Melissa Thomas Hunt, and the faculty across the Executive MBA program, and to my classmates, with my learning team, and to everyone who stepped up to say you can do it, and here's how. Um, Thank you, and thanks for having me, Brett.
And that was my conversation with Matt Dunovant, a first-year student in our executive MBA class of 2027. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXEC, MBA at darden.virginia.edu. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.